I stood on the platform in Vermont, clutching my train ticket and a paper cup of coffee that had already gone lukewarm. Across the tracks, the trees burned in riotous gold and red just like I'd imagined when I planned this trip. The 40th wedding anniversary trip, for my parents, organized by me, paid by me, timed around their favorite season. I handed the agent my ticket. He scanned it, his brow furrowed. "This one's already been checked in," he said. I blinked. "I'm sorry?" He turned the scanner toward me like it would explain everything. "Checked in this morning. Passenger already boarded." "That's not possible." But even as the words left my mouth, something in my gut started to knot. My phone buzzed. A text from Brian. "Tiff really wanted to see the fall colors. You don't even like crowds. We figured it made sense." I stared at the message. Then I stared at the train, as it pulled away without me. I didn't call, didn't reply. I just stood there, holding coffee I no longer wanted, surrounded by the trip I built for people who didn't think I needed to be there. Tiffany had my seat. Tiffany, Brian's girlfriend of 6 months, the same girl who once used my guest bathroom to film a TikTok with my toothbrush. And me? I wasn't even an afterthought. I was a placeholder they erased, quietly, completely. And the worst part wasn't that they left. It was that no one thought I'd care. Growing up, I thought being dependable was something to be proud of. I was the kid who cleared the dinner table without being asked, the one with straight A's while Brian coasted by on late homework and charm. When Dad lost his job the year I turned 16, I picked up shifts at the diner, handed every paycheck to Mom without question. She called me her little rock, and I wore the title like a badge. Brian was the baby. He crashed the car twice, didn't pay for either repair, but when he got a C in microeconomics, Mom cried tears of pride. "He's trying so hard," she said. When he got into community college, I paid for his books. When he dropped out, I helped him find a job. When he lost it, I co-signed his lease and made the payments when he didn't. He moved in and out of my guest room more times than I could count, always with a new excuse. Tiffany? She was just the latest version of his life on someone else's dime, and I never complained. Out loud, I had a stable job as a systems analyst. I told myself I was being generous. That's what good daughters do. Mom never asked me directly for money. She didn't have to. She'd say things like, "Your brother's doing his best. It's hard for young people these days. Not everyone's as responsible as you." She never thanked me. Not really, because in her eyes, I wasn't being generous. I was just doing what I did, reliable, strong, capable. And over the years, it became easier to be that person than to ask why no one else had to be. I didn't plan the anniversary trip to prove anything. I planned it because Mom once told me she and Dad honeymooned near the Berkshires, because she lit up every time fall came around, because Dad kept a Polaroid from that trip in his dresser drawer, because I thought maybe if I gave them something beautiful, they'd finally see me. Not just what I gave, not just what I could fix. Me. It started as a sticky note. Berkshire's October. I scribbled it in the margin of my planner after Mom mentioned it over coffee. That afternoon, I started researching foliage tours. Within a week, I had everything booked. Scenic rail passes, 2 nights at a historic inn with vineyard views, dinner at the same restaurant they visited 40 years ago. I even upgraded their room to have a fireplace, just like before. I wrote on the itinerary card. I didn't need much. A roadside motel for me, coach class on the train. The whole trip came to just under $900. It covered everything: transport, meals, flowers, even a bouquet of fresh asters for the dinner table. I used to rearrange my calendar to meet client deadlines, fit the whole thing between the product launches. Brian wasn't part of the plan, not at first. Mom had said he was busy with some freelance thing, which usually meant doing nothing while Tiffany practiced TikTok dances. I didn't press. Honestly, I imagined a quiet trip. One that reminded them, I'm still here. I still care. It wasn't about earning love. I'd stopped chasing that years ago. But a small part of me hoped maybe this trip would be the thing that stuck. A photo they'd frame. A memory they'd talk about over Thanksgiving. A crack in the wall. A week before the trip, Mom texted. Tiff said her fall content would look amazing up there. Brian thinks it'd be fun if we added them. Is that okay? No mention of logistics. No offer to pay. Just an assumption that I'd make it work. I stared at the message, then typed, if the rooms can still be adjusted, I'll try. Not because I was upset, but because I knew how this script played out. Every ask came draped in charm, framed as last minute, but somehow always landed on me. That night, I scrambled. The inn was nearly full. I found one small room overpriced and awkwardly located. Still, I booked it. I emailed the train company. Our cabin held 4. Any more meant losing the reservation. I asked them to hold the seats. Mom never followed up. No confirmation. No thank you. The group chat went silent. A few days later, I saw Tiffany's Instagram story, a pair of brown leather boots, captioned, "Can't wait for fall adventures." The boots were on my living room floor. She didn't even ask before taking the photo. Something in me tightened, but I let it go. That's what I always did, even when unease crept up like fog. I told myself, it'd be fine. They wouldn't cut me out, they wouldn't, but they did, and I stayed on that platform long after the train disappeared. The trees whispered, the sky hung soft with mist, the suitcase beside me, silent and pointless. No one called, no one texted again. Not Brian, not Mom. I wasn't part of the mistake. I was the mistake. Tiffany got the scenic view, the fireplace, the seat I'd held for months, and they didn't even think to tell me. I crossed the street to a cafe, ordered another coffee I didn't want, sat by the window, scrolled through social media. Brian had posted a photo, Mom and Dad, Tiffany between them, smiling, family fall getaway, finally making memories together. It hit harder than I expected, like they were waiting to be complete once I was gone. I didn't comment, didn't like it, didn't reply. I just stared at the table, at the scratches in the wood, trying to find answers in their silence. But I already knew the truth. They didn't forget me. They chose without me. And now I needed to choose too. I didn't go home. I rented a car and drove north. No GPS, no destination, just away. I ended up in Brattleboro, a small town tucked in the folds of Vermont. I found a roadside inn, fireplace, vacancy. I checked in, didn't unpack, just sat by the window with a blanket and a cup of chamomile I didn't finish. For 2 days, I didn't check my phone. No responses, no explanations. Brian texted, "Did you get mixed up on the train schedule?" I left it on read. I wandered through apple orchards losing their last leaves, through antique shops with forgotten treasures. I bought a postcard, didn't write on it, tucked it into a book and forgot it was there. And for the first time in years I didn't have to soften my tone, didn't have to downplay my pain, didn't have to make space for someone else's mess. I wasn't empty, I was honest. The trip was gone. The people too. But the silence, that was finally mine. Continued in next message. The house that was mine. I got back to my apartment late Tuesday afternoon. The sky hung low and gray, that kind of quiet overcast that makes the whole street feel like it's holding its breath. I dropped my bag by the door, didn't bother unpacking. Out of habit, I opened Facebook. Mom had posted again, dozens of photos from the trip. She'd tagged Brian, Tiffany, even the bed and breakfast, but not me. And there, in one of the photos, a dinner table lit with flickering candles, a bouquet of asters and goldenrod, my centerpiece, my reservation, my handwriting still faintly visible on the place cards. Tiffany sat where I was supposed to be. The caption read, "Grateful for our children who made this anniversary so special. Couldn't have asked for a more loving weekend." I closed the app. The next morning, I got an email from Mom's shared account with Dad. Subject line, photos from the trip. No message, just bulk attachments, as if I were a distant cousin who missed a reunion. "No, we missed you." "No, where were you?" Just evidence, proof they lived the weekend without me. That's when I knew. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't an oversight. This was the family they chose to show up for. Part 10. The lease. The next day, I drove to the house. My house. The one I bought 6 years ago. The one with my name on every document. The one I'd let them live in rent-free. They weren't home, so I walked room to room. The guest towels I'd bought were faded. The kitchen smelled like someone else's cooking. Tiffany's raincoat hung on the banister. I stood in the dining room, the same one Mom once claimed during a birthday toast. Our home, thanks to Lauren's generosity. But now, it was clear, they weren't renters, they were takers, and I was done giving. The lease adjustment notice went out the next morning. 2 copies, one on the counter, one mailed certified, clean, professional. No venom, just numbers. Rent market rate, utilities, separate, guest privileges, revoked without written approval. Deadline, the 1st of the month. No note, no apology, because this time, I didn't owe them anything. Part 11. The fallout that afternoon. Mom called. She didn't say hi. Didn't ask how I was. She opened with, "What is this? Are you seriously charging us rent?" There was no confusion in her voice, only offense. "This is cruel. We're your parents." I waited, then answered gently, "Then maybe you should have treated me like your daughter." She scoffed, quick, cold. "So this is about that trip?" I said nothing. "We didn't mean to hurt you," she said, voice softening. "It just happened." I could hear her pacing, the creak of the old floorboard near the front window. "Your father's upset," she added. "But Robert hadn't called, hadn't texted, hadn't asked me anything. You could have just talked to us," she said. "I could have," I replied. "I chose this instead." "You're not serious." "I am." She hung up. I stood at the sink, not angry, not proud, just steady. This house didn't feel like mine anymore, but it wasn't theirs either. It had been a gift. Now, it was a boundary. Part 12. Retaliation. 3 days later, I got an email from a law office I didn't recognize. Subject line, intent to dispute ownership. Inside was a vague letter. My parents, through counsel, were claiming shared occupancy and long-term financial contributions. No receipts, no numbers, just intimidation dressed as formality. I forwarded it to my attorney. He called that same hour. "There's no legal standing here. This is just noise." But it didn't feel like noise. It felt like betrayal again. They weren't apologizing. They were doubling down. Brian showed up the next night. He looked like he hadn't slept. Tiff left. He mumbled. Said she didn't sign up for all this family crap. He didn't ask to come in. Just stood there, expecting something like always. "I don't have anywhere to go," he added. "You know that, right?" I did. But I also knew what would happen if I let him in. It would never stop. "I'm not your safety net anymore," I said. He looked down. "Back up. I didn't mean to hurt you." But he didn't say he was sorry. Not really. And I didn't say anything back. Part 13. My father's consent. Dad never said a word. Not after the rent notice. Not after the lawyer's letter. Not even when Brian stood on my porch with nowhere to go. He didn't yell, didn't text, didn't ask why. But that wasn't new. His silence had always been there, a backdrop to the chaos, to Mom's manipulation, to Brian's crises, to my collapse. He'd sip his coffee, disappear into the next room. His quiet used to feel soft, gentle, even. Now I saw it clearly. It wasn't gentleness, it was consent. Every time they used me, every time I was left to pick up the pieces, he let it happen. The day I dropped off the certified letter, he was watering the bushes. He looked up. "You don't have to do this," he said quietly. I met his eyes. "I do." He turned back to the rose bush like I hadn't spoken. Part 14. The ending that freed me. 3 weeks later, I moved into a small loft across the river. Exposed brick, high windows, quiet. No footsteps above, no demands, no guilt. Just me. I bought a second-hand couch, a real tea kettle, a lamp I actually liked. I wasn't waiting for texts, or favors, or validation. Brian never reached out again. Tiffany unfollowed us all. And my parents? They went silent, until one last message from Mom. "We miss who you used to be." I replied, "You miss the version of me who never said no." She's gone. No response after that. Sometimes I sit on the bench near the train station, the same one from that morning. But now, I don't relive it. I just sit, because that's what peace feels like, not a celebration, a quiet absence of noise. I used to think saying no would make me heartless. Now I know it made me whole. Last week, I booked a train ticket to Maine. No itinerary, no group chat, no anniversary dinner to plan. Just me, a window seat, a quiet bookstore I've always wanted to visit. I packed light, one bag, a notebook, and a sweater that still smells faintly of cedar. At the station, I paused, just for a second. Let myself remember Vermont. The sting was gone, only clarity remained. I am not their fixer, not their fallback, not their foundation. I am not their plan B. I am my own beginning. There's a sticky note on my new mirror. Just 5 words I wrote the day I moved in. I owe myself the most. Every morning, I read it like a promise. Some stories aren't told for sympathy. They're told for recognition. If this one stirred something in you, maybe it wasn't just a story. Maybe it was yours too. Like if you've ever felt invisible in the family you carried. Subscribe for stories that don't just end, they free.